Dimensional Sight here, back with another video. And in today's video, we are going to talk about the idea and look at the idea that a lot of the stone that we see nowadays used to be wood and was petrified and turned into stone, and that the majority of the mountains and everything that we see was actually wood at one time. And recently Wise Up did a video on this topic that I guess he did 3 videos. I haven't seen the first 2, but maybe I did. But you should go back and watch all his videos. But this one's really, really crucial to our understanding, connecting some dots and putting some, puzzle pieces together in terms of the past. So when the petrification occurred, everything was turned into stone. All the wood, all of the buildings, all of the creatures and people and everything was all petrified. So it's really hard to tell the difference between what used to be, what used to be wood, a giant tree, and the scale of everything has changed. So everything used to be gigantic. These trees, used to be miles high in height and humongous compared to our standards as humans. They were giants back in those days. So there were also giant creatures and giant humans and everything else. But there's going to be a link in the description of this video to the Wise Up video, so definitely go watch it. It's very, very much going to be worth your time and understanding. So he basically what he shows here at first is just what wood looks like when it breaks down. And it very much looks just like that picture right there. I really like this one because it just gives you a really good idea to make that connection, and this one too. Um, and then this is also still wood, but now we're going to be getting into the stone pictures. And you can see how very much it looks just like the wood that we just were looking at in the last 5 pictures. So we'll go through some of these. Excuse me. And everybody's seeing these rocks just all around the world, everywhere. You'll see all the very similar. So what we should be taking into consideration is that, and this very much makes sense to me because the large volume of rock around the world doesn't really make sense. I mean, we see so much stone everywhere, and it's like, where did all of this come from? And we know that the whole Big Bang, ball Earth cosmology and all that is all nonsense. So we need to figure out what the real explanation is and I am very much on board with this explanation I would say, I'm going to have to go with 98% of the stone that we see is probably wood. At one time was probably wood. I'd say the other 1%, or the remaining 2% is split between mud fossils and buildings, basically, that were petrified. So let's continue on. And yeah, he talks about how the heat pressure of depth from the flood is what petrified everything. So that is his explanation for, and he says metamorphosis. So that is his explanation for, and he's showing the coal mines too. He was showing in the video. You'll see it in the video. But the heat pressure of depth from the flood, because the flood was so high that everything on the ground, which was once the ground, was crushed in, under such pressure that it actually caused it to heat up and sort of melt and turn into stone. And then obviously the water was removed somehow, and we no longer have the flood waters above us like they were at one point in time. So I don't know how the waters were, removed after the earth was flooded. Maybe that's what formed. Maybe there used to be a lot more land, and now all the oceans are formed from those old waters, or maybe the floodwaters were released out into the great deep or something like that. This is what they call Devil's Tower in South Dakota, United States. And this definitely looks like that image that we saw with the piece of wood. The inner matrix splinters. Giant's Causeway. I'm definitely on board with this theory right here. The petrified seeds, these were giant seeds from giant trees. And they see, so here's where like Roger Spur at Mudfossil University would say that these were actually body parts. His theory is that all the stone that we see was all once animals and creatures. And that just never made sense to me because it would just take such an enormous volume of animals and creatures to create all the stone that we see that it would just be, it's just almost unfathomable, of how could that have ever occurred. And he says that they were titans that were miles high and everything like that. And I'm not saying that that didn't exist, but still, I mean, even that wouldn't, you'd have to have, I don't know, millions or billions of titans to actually create the volume of stone that we see. It would make a lot more sense that the volume of stone that we see was actually created from plant material. And there's Devil's Tower again. Now, what cut these trees off? Because they're very clearly, cleanly shaven off at the top. A lot of them. This is actually a mesa. And this would be, I don't know whether this would be a giant tree that was trimmed off at the bottom, and this would be the old leftover stump. But what is it that came along and cut off all these trees? Too, was that the old antediluvians that did that? Must have been, I guess. So, after watching this video, I very much had to rethink some of my theories on whether or not these giant mountains were actually buildings at one time, but I'm going to stick by that I do think a lot of them were buildings, so I'm going to go through that right now. Now, this picture I had originally saved, and I don't think I ever showed you guys this one, but this one definitely looked like a mud fossil, like a giant mud fossil head right here. There would be his nose, his mouth, his eye right there. So, that's kind of an example, like I said, how everything was turned into stone. Or is this just a random how the rocks crumbled? Maybe this all used to be a tree, part of a tree, and this is how the rocks crumbled over time, and it just looks like a face. Hard to say. When I was looking at the maroon bells in Colorado again, originally in my video that I made about this area, I had said that these were very likely buildings that were crushed to the side, but I'm starting to get on board with that this was probably a giant. This is actually used to all be wood, and it is crumbling because it very much looked like the crumbling wood images that we saw, and that would kind of explain just all these horizontal lines that we see everywhere. I'm not going to 100% rule out that this was structural. I don't know, but it's an easier pill to swallow that. Like, for example, this doesn't necessarily remind me of a wood breaking down. That to me looks almost more like a building, and this, like this one over here, same kind of thing. So hard to say, but definitely also reminded me when he showed those crumbling wood images, and how it breaks down and everything. It certainly you could get on board with that theory, but like you get back to, let's see, this was Mount Meru, India, I believe. Was this location, but no, this looks structural to me. No trees are growing like that with triangles, and just all the other things that we see on some of these. So I'm still going with building on this one here. Mount Everest, maybe. Not sure, but that may be Kailash right there. Yeah, this was potentially Everest, but it's hard. It's again a hard pill to swallow that this was from a tree. This is looking very much, that was looking very structural and still does. Same thing here. This was, I believe, an Everest image, and this is not this is not biological right here, and this is not from plant material. This is certainly something that was manufactured at one point in time, in my opinion. Mount Kailash, still going with building on that one. Potentially with giant mud fossil underneath, but Um, I don't, you know, it just doesn't look like any sort of a tree would, the way a tree would grow or anything. So, again, this is where we have to kind of different, and especially this side building or mountain, whatever you want to call it, it very much looks like a building to me still. So, it doesn't look like a crumbling wood structure. So that's why we kind of have to try to use discernment when we're looking at these things now. So I just wanted to thank Wise Up for this information. And again, here this still looks to me like a roof structure with these tiles or shingles. Does not look like a tree to me. So again, same thing there. And then this one too had the mud fossil head stuck in the hillside there. All of it turned into stone. Pretty amazing. So that's about it, guys. You know, I just wanted to, and I'm still going with this is a giant. This was some sort of manufactured face on the front of this. I'm still going, I think, with Sphinx, you know, type structures here. Certainly still looking like that to me at this location. This one, when I rethought about it and looked at it, I definitely am going with wood. This is looking like that breaking down, you know, giant trees breaking down type look to me here on that one. So you know, and we're back to the original. So, anyways, that's all I got for this video. Definitely, like I said, go check out that link, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.